This video is for you if you're struggling to put a lap time together and you know it's not the skill. You know it's not your actual driving that's the problem. You can go through all these corners pretty much on the limit as quick as anybody. But mentally, you keep making mistakes. Mentally, you get stressed and you start to overdrive the entries. And even though you know that corner, this corner coming up is all about the exit, setting it up, you still overcharge. This is stupidly common. I see it on simulators actually a little bit more than I see in the real world, because in simulators you're using a lot of the brain because you're taking away the sense of feel. You're having to think about every move, and every move has got a consequence to it. So if you go just a little bit deeper, you can't feel the car locking up. You can't really adjust quick enough because it's when you see something, you have to react to it. Or you might feel something in the force feedback, or you hear a lockup or something, but it's usually too late. When you're in the real world, you can kind of put the fire out just that millisecond quicker. But on the sim, this really shows up. It shows me how you're performing mentally, especially when you can't put a lap together. And you've done it, maybe you drive really good on the end lap. Maybe you drive really good on the out lap. You're doing green, maybe purple, but you're doing green sectors on the actual out lap when the tyres are not ready. Then when the tyres are ready, you go to push and you're nowhere near. You're going slower. That's all mental. When you're driving, it's really important. This is the first rule that I want you to take with you. When you're driving, it's really important that you drive the car and you drive the track, the corner. Your job as a driver is only to focus on how to get this car through that corner that's coming up right now as quick as possible, as efficient as possible. That's all your job is. The lap time doesn't care about your goals. It doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't care about how much it means to you. All it cares about is you driving the corner correctly. However, when it comes to qualifying, or it's a pressureful, shall we say, pressureful time in a race, you cannot put it together because your intentions and what you want to happen override logic. Your logic of what's got to be done in this corner goes out the window, and your intensity and desire overrides intelligence. It narrows your focus. It actually puts you in threat mode, which is the amygdala part of the brain. Fight or flight, you've heard of that? That's what you're kicking into. That's what you're initiating when you're putting way too much emphasis on the result. And I want you to work on this because I do see it tripping up a lot of drivers. They have the skill. They can do it. But when it comes to doing it, they don't do it. This is a major problem on the grids out there. And I tell you something, if you overcome this, if you start to be better when the stopwatch really matters in qualifying, or when you're under pressure in a race, if you become better in that area, you're going to overtake drivers that are actually faster than you, that actually have a quicker car than you at that point, or kart, because you'll be more consistent and you'll hit your level. That's all we've got to do as a driver, right? Say if you've got, you haven't been in the car that much, you haven't done many test days, it's important that you get to your level, your absolute optimal, before you can improve. If you're hit and miss, yeah, I outbraked myself for this corner, I went in too deep for that one, I used too much exit, I didn't brake enough for there, I broke too hard because I was trying to protect the lap time because I knew I was on a good one and I only had 2 corners left. If you're doing that, it's really hard to improve. And as a coach, if the driver's not really hitting their level, they're kind of up and down, it's hard to get to the truth. They can blame traffic, they can blame the wind, they can blame the car sets up the pressures, but they know deep down that they dropped the ball. Mentally, again, they put too much emphasis on the whole lap rather than just perfecting the corner they're approaching. This is the main topic I want to speak about, and it's something I want you to train forever and understand when it's happening and when it's not. When I was in the zone, this happened. When I wasn't in the zone, I started to stress out, this happened. At the next test day, which the last video I did was about the test day I set up, and a lot of that test day I did, when it was just me and the driver and a reference driver and a great engineer, we just focused about the mental side, pretty much. It's driving, of course, but really it's the mental side that we were working on. And I want you to do that in the next test, in the next time out on the track, even if it's a race weekend. First of all, understand what you're doing. So when you are driving really well, how are you mentally processing? What's it feel like? What are you saying to yourself? What are you thinking about? And where are you looking as you're driving? And write that out. Have a little mental debrief. And now and then, you'll over push. You'll stress. You will start to think of the lap time and your driving will suffer. Again, what am I feeling? Then keep coming back. Why am I feeling that way? What am I thinking about? What am I focusing? Where are my eyes looking? And you'll have two different people, two different ways of running the mind and two different outcomes. First of all, you have to get to know that person. Both people, actually. It's you, but it's in two different mental states. And you start to learn about your little triggers, things that actually put you into either state. Maybe it's your warm-up before you get in the car. Maybe it's something somebody said. Maybe it's what you have as a goal as you're going out on track. There's going to be these little triggers. You might see a driver that you don't really get on with and you'll want to beat them. And that overrides, again, the importance of just driving correctly. If you drive correctly, you'll get the lap time you deserve. If you don't, if you overdrive, you're not. You're going to underperform. I want you to put more emphasis on going out on the track and being at your best. It's an overused saying, but being at your best, that's all you can do. And you can start to get to work when you're actually performing at your best, like I said, instead of being up and down. Make this such a big priority over winter and over the season if you're watching this later on in the year or earlier on next year, because it's the essence. I don't want you to be like this engine in a car that you put in and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. On some days it's great, and then you put it in another day and it doesn't really perform very well. You can't afford to be like that as a driver. I know you're human and you're going to have off days and things, but put the percentage more into the days that you are performing at your best. Make it important. So to give you some tips, because you know I'm big on this area, that's really what I'm focusing on now. It's where all my coaching is. I want you to, first off, the first step is what I've already said. Note the two people, the two mindsets that you create. Nobody else does, but you create. Make sure you know them first. Then get the motivation to change. If you listen to my stuff, you know this very well. If I carry on doing this, I carry on over driving, over pushing, what's my career going to look like in 1, 2, 5 years? And if I sort it out and I start to get the best out of myself and I'm more consistent, I'm focusing on what I need to do, what will my career look like then, or could look like 1, 2, 5 years? Get the motivation to change this. Like, be determined. I've got to change. Otherwise, it's not going to change. Then once we've got through them first two steps, then we talk about what am I going to do to put myself in that mental state. Prepare before you go out. Knowledge. Knowledge is the foundation of what you need to do whilst you're out there. Okay, turn one. I know what I've got to do. I know precisely where I've got to brake, how I've got to brake, what the most important thing is about that corner. Great, I'm going to go do that. Turn two, turn three. So you get the knowledge base of what needs to be done. Because if you want to use the logic part of your brain, knowledge is huge. That's your foundation. Done. Okay? Then it's going out and doing it. And seeing if you can do it. Focusing on that. And when you do, again, write down how you did it. But I will promise you that when you're driving at your best, when you're driving and thinking about the corner and you're present in the moment, not thinking about past, not future, not what ifs, just now, now and the next second, you'll find out that you're looking at a certain part of the corner. You'll look at it earlier, right, get over here. Your breathing's all controlled. So your physiology is actually in line with the kind of mind that you need to create. And you're just thinking about the objective for that corner. Not trying to be this record breaker on the way in to brake later than anybody else and take more speed than anyone else. It's no, I need to drive it correctly. And if I do need to tweak, if I am leaving a little bit of time on the table, fair enough, but I just need to drive it correctly. So the car has got the correct platform and I'm emotionally in control. That's the goal. The other side is pushing over driving. So the step 3 is really doing, and 4 and 5, is doing it over and over again until you ingrain what needs to be done. When you're out there, Understand that the physiology is important, which means breathing. It even means where your head is. If you're starting to go down, you're starting to get tense arms, you're holding your breath, your body temperature's going up, too much intention. Again, fight or flight's just around the corner if it's not initiated already. To be at your best, to let the brain do the operating, and for the car to move as it needs to. It's a bit like a horse when you're riding it. The rider, the driver, has to be relaxed and just doing the correct inputs at the right time. If you're tense, you can't. You're going to be manipulating the wheel too much. You're not going to be fluid. As the bump hits, it will put too much energy through your body. It sends a different signal to the brain, and that creates different emotions. If you're relaxed, just enough, you don't want to be too loose, so you're losing the wheel, of course. Just enough relaxed as you need to be so your mind can focus on what it needs to do rather than, oh, why is he tense? Why is he tense? He must be scared or something. Focus on what he needs to do. Your breathing is controlled. Nice deep breaths down the straight, focusing and telling the brain what it needs to think about in this next corner. If you bring that person in, that person will be really good, I promise. Now, we can't talk about the subject of you over pushing if we don't understand why you're over pushing. It's very well saying, control the breathing, focus on what you need to focus on, get the knowledge in and everything like that. But just visit quickly when it's happening, or even now after this video. Why am I over pushing? Why am I putting so much emphasis on the lap time? I've got to understand what keeps feeding it, because it must be some kind of benefit in it. And there is a benefit. We don't really do much behavioral wise if there's no benefit, even if it's harmful to us physically or our future. If we're taking actions that don't really help us, they're meeting some need. I promise there's some kind of benefit in there and the brain keeps doing it. And that's what's happening when you're chasing a lap time. You're thinking again about the result. You're thinking about being the best. You're thinking, I want to make sure that people see me as the best. I don't want to be seen as I'm not good enough. There's going to be something fueling it. And you got to get to the bottom of that. It's different for a lot of people, of course. I can't tell you what yours is. But psychologically, there's a little child inside you that wants love. And it could be love and appreciation from the public or a parent or somebody. But it's that's causing you very often to chase a lap time and just put too much emphasis and importance on the result. Something else you've heard me say a lot. I would love you to have the same emotion whether you win or lose. Really hard, right? It's difficult. But to have a more consistent reaction to your results. So I win, I'm happy. Okay, brilliant. It worked. Something worked. Let's find out what it is. Now let's get to work. If you don't, you completely capitulate, you get your backside kicked and you underperform, brilliant, great, take it. What can we learn? Okay, on to the next one. It should be very similar. And this is one way of doing it, of actually making sure that you stay mentally stable, is you see each result as nothing but feedback and you don't take it personally. But when you are taking it personally, like I say, there'll be a reason. It's you trying to prove your worth in some way. That's all about perspective. That's all about the way you're seeing it and linking it to your goals. And when I say seeing it, I mean see racing, seeing your performance. You're maybe seeing it in a way that I am only as good as my results and I really worry about what other people think. If you go into racing in life and try and succeed with them rules, thinking about what other people think and my results are my identity, you're going to be stressed. You're not going to be at one, because the brain's got to be calm in order, like the heartbeat of the brain, it's got to be quite calm in order for you to perform at your best. When you're thinking about a reputation, being worth more to others, pecking order, playground stuff, that's not a calm mind, that's a worried mind. So it's really important to understand what's the catalyst. Why am I putting so much emphasis on the lap time and the result? I've got to find out and I've got to address that. And without going too deep, you address it by giving it a different meaning. So you're like, right, I can see how much this is hurting. That's what the motivation, like step 2, is about. It's like telling the brain that this is not helping me. This is actually detrimental to my happiness and to what I'm trying to get in the end anyway. It's actually taking me away from my goals. And it's seeing it that way and getting more of a kick, much more of a kick out of putting the lap time in that was the best possible lap time, driving wise, as I can. Like each corner I go through, I'm like, yeah, that was the limit. That was good. Right, next, turn 3. How was this? That's good. Turn 4. And you get your head there. So you're more focused on the actual drawing, like a painter would, like the actual painting, the lines. You get carried away with that rather than thinking, if I don't create the perfect picture, it's end. It's the end of my career. People are going to think less of me. You're not going to be able to flow when you're painting then. It's the same with driving. So over the next few tests, over the next races, really start to have a look at you and how you're performing. Externally, you can see this through how were my results. You take it a level down from there and you say, right, how was I mentally performing? What mental state was I in when I got those results? And then keep going deeper and deeper until you get to the root cause, if this is a challenge of yours, a root cause of why am I chasing the lap time? Why am I putting way too much emphasis on being P1 and not the craft? It's going to take time, this, because pretty much nobody else is approaching their racing this way. So you've got to be a bit of an outlier. But this is getting to the nooks and crannies. This is getting to the mechanics of your performance. So it's really important. Mental performance is at the nucleus of everything you do. It's at the base. So I want you to focus on that a lot more.